Hi, I'm Colby Kelly, and today we'll be looking at the London, England weather information. Our location, as I said earlier, is London, England. Here's the climate information for London. There are many different climate variables and a month for each variable, including the annual. There are average max temperature, average minimum temperature, average precipitation, number of wet days, average sunlight hours, average daylight hours in minutes, percentage of sun daylight hours, and sun altitude at solar noon on the 21st day. Here is the average climate during May. The average high temperature in May is usually 62 degrees Fahrenheit, the average low temperature in May is 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average precipitation in May is 2 inches. What type of climate is our city in? Well, the type of climate that London is in is called Marine West Coast. This means that London usually has warm but not hot summers and cool but not freezing winters. What are the typical seasons like in London? The range of temperatures is small, which means that the temperatures don't have major differences in different seasons. This means that Marine West Coast regions really only have 2 seasons, which are summer and winter. Specifically in London, during the spring, there are sudden rain showers and growing trees and plants. During the summer, there are occasional thunderstorms, long days, and sometimes heat waves. Summer is the hottest season of the year. During the fall, it can be mild and dry or wet and windy. It is a season where the leaves fall off the trees and the temperatures drop. During the winter, there are freezing temperatures, sometimes icy conditions, and sometimes snow. Winter is the coldest season. What is the vegetation like in London? Marine West Coast regions have regular rain. This means that there are usually thick forests, evergreen trees, spruce, cedar, pine, and redwood. There are also usually species of ferns and grasses. Specifically in London, there are woodlands, marshes, rivers, and canals. What kind of animals live in London? Well, there are many different types of birds in the Marine West Coast regions. Also, there are many different kinds of animals in these regions. Specifically in London, there are hills, marshes, and forests, which means that there are amphibians, reptiles, roe deer, foxes, pigeons, and more. Here are the weather conditions for May 6th. There will be scattered clouds, the high will be 57, the low will be 47, and there will be a 20% chance of rain. The wind will be going west-southwest, 26 miles per hour. Over here, you have the dew point, humidity, rainfall, snow depth, pollen, pressure, etc. And over here, there's the radar. Once again, here's the current radar for May 6th. As you can see, there are spots of rain here and there. What is a high-pressure system? A high-pressure system is a system of whirling mass of cool air and dry air that usually brings fair weather and light winds. When viewed from above, winds spiral out of a high-pressure center in a clockwise directions. This happens in the northern hemisphere mostly, and it is represented by a big blue H. Now, what is a low-pressure system? A low-pressure system is a whirling mass of warm air and moist air that usually brings stormy weather with strong winds. When viewed from above, winds spiral into a low-pressure center in a counterclockwise direction. This happens in the northern hemisphere, and it is represented by a big red L. What is radar? A radar is an electronic instrument that determines the direction and distance of objects that reflect back radio energy to the radar site. It is a tool that meteorologists use to detect rain or snow. Radar actually stands for radio detection and ranging. What is the Doppler radar? The Doppler radar is an instrument that detects precipitation intensity, wind speed and direction, and shows estimates of hail size and rainfall amounts. This allows forecasters to provide early detection of severe thunderstorms that may bring damaging winds, large hail, heavy rain, or possible tornadoes. It also allows forecasters to have advanced severe weather warnings. What is the NEXRAD radar? NEXRAD stands for Next Generation Radar. This radar creates many different views of storms and rain that allows meteorologists to determine whether or not a storm will be severe. What is dew point? Dew point is the temperature at which water starts to condense out of a particular air mass. The dew point temperature changes only when the moisture content in the air changes. The higher the dew point, the greater the moisture content is in the air, and vice versa. What is humidity? Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air. And over here you see like an average relative humidity. What is air mass? Air mass is an extremely large body of air whose properties of temperature and moisture content, or humidity, at any altitude are fairly similar in any horizontal direction. Air masses can cover large amounts of area. Air mass can control the weather for quite a long time. A front is a boundary between two different air masses resulting in stormy weather, usually the line of separation between cold air masses and warm air masses. A cold front, in particular, is a boundary between two air masses, one cold and the other warm, moving so that the cold air replaces the warm air. This is represented by a blue line with triangles on top. A warm front is a boundary between two air masses, one cold, the other warm, moving so that the warm air replaces the cold air. These are represented by a red line with half circles on top. Now, what is a stationary front? A stationary front is a boundary between two air masses that more or less doesn't move, but can wobble back and forth between hot and cold. This is represented by altering warm and cold front lines. An occluded front is a combination of two fronts that form when a cold front catches up and replaces a warm front. It's represented as a purple line with both half circles and triangles on it. Now, what is a trough? A trough is an elongated area or relatively low pressure. Troughs bring cloudy and rainy weather, and they are represented by a hash mark line. As you can see right there, it's kind of hard to see though. What is a weather satellite? A weather satellite is a type of satellite that is primarily used to monitor weather and climate here on Earth. Weather satellites collect data like fires, effects of pollen or pollution, auroras, sand and dust storms, snow cover, ice mapping, boundaries of ocean currents, energy flows, etc. When does precipitation happen? Precipitation happens when water forms from warm air. As the air rises, it cools in the sky. Once enough droplets collect together, they form clouds. If the clouds are big enough to hold enough water droplets, the droplets hit one another and form even bigger droplets. Once these droplets become heavy, they fall because of gravity. How does air pressure affect the weather? Air pressure changes with weather. Air pressure is one of the most important factors that help determine what the weather is going to be like. In fact, you can come up with a weather forecast just from using the wind and barometric pressure. Weather services first started using the air pressure to help determine weather because people found out that direct pressure measurements can be used in formulas that describe the weather. How does radar help meteorologists forecast weather? Radars help meteorologists forecast weather because it is an electronic instrument that determines the distance and direction of objects that reflect radio energy back to where the radar is located. Some radars also can produce many different views of a storm or rain and help meteorologists predict if a storm is going to be severe or not. Lastly, certain radars can measure the changes in frequency of the signal it receives to determine the wind. Is there a relation between changes in pressure, cold fronts, warm fronts, and precipitation? Actually, there is a relationship between the changes in pressure, cold fronts, warm fronts, and precipitation. When there is any kind of front, whether it be cold or warm, or any other type of front, the moisture content, amount of clouds and precipitation, and amount of pressure all change. So that means that there is a relationship between them all. What kinds of things can you go do in London? Actually, there are many different attractions in London. For example, you could visit the famous Big Ben, you could take a ride on the London Ferris wheel, or you could sit back and enjoy a fine tennis match at Wimbledon.
Call, please. Play.